So today we're continuing our study of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, chapter 3, entitled Talks Between Lord Shiva and Sati. And today's verse is number 3. Ishtvasava japeyena Brahmishtan abhibhuya cha Brihaspati savam nama Samarebhe kratuttamam Ishtvasavajapeyena Brahmishtan abhibhuya cha Brihaspati savam nama Samarebhe kratuttamam Ishtvasavajapeyena Brahmishtan abhibhuya cha Brihaspati savam nama Samarebhe kratuttamam. Vaishnavis. Ishtva, after performing, Sa, he, Daksha, Vajapayena, with a Vajapaya sacrifice, Brahmishtan, Shiva and his followers, Abhibhuya, neglecting, Cha, and Brihaspati Savam, the Brihaspati Sava, Nama, called, Samarebhe, began, Kratu Uttamam, the best of sacrifices. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Daksha began a sacrifice named Vajapaya, and he became excessively confident of his support by Lord Brahma. He then performed another great sacrifice named Brihaspati Sava. Srila Prabhupada's purport. In the Vedas, it is prescribed that before performing a Brihaspati Sava sacrifice, one should first perform the sacrifice named Vajapaya. While performing these sacrifices, however, Daksha neglected great devotees like Lord Shiva. According to Vedic scriptures, the demigods are eligible to participate in yajnas and share the oblations, but Daksha wanted to avoid them. All sacrifices are intended to pacify Lord Vishnu, but Lord Vishnu includes all his devotees. Brahma, Lord Shiva, and the other demigods are all obedient servants of Lord Vishnu. Therefore, Lord Vishnu is never satisfied without them. But Daksha, being puffed up with his power, wanted to deprive Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva of participation in the sacrifice, understanding that if one satisfies Vishnu, it is not necessary to satisfy his followers. But that is not the process. Vishnu wants his followers to be satisfied first. Lord Krishna says, Mad Bhakta Puja Vyadika. The worship of my devotees is better than worship of me. Similarly, in the Shiva Purana, it is stated that the best mode of worship is to offer oblations to Vishnu, but better than that is to worship the devotees of Krishna. Thus, Daksha's determination to neglect Lord Shiva in the sacrifices was not fitting. So here, in this verse, we have Brahmishtan Abhibhuya Cha. That Abhibhuya means to neglect. So he neglected the devotees, especially Shiva and the followers of Shiva, who are all devotees of Vishnu. And therefore, that was considered an offense. He was trying to jump over everybody else and just go worship worship Vishnu, and neglect everybody else as if they weren't even there. If someone is present and we neglect them as if they weren't even there, that's a great offense. Even in material society, that's an offense. What to speak of in the spiritual circles with great sages and saints. So the demigods are always coming to the yajnas because they love the yajnas and they love to worship Lord Vishnu. But Daksha tried to avoid them. He wanted to pacify Lord Vishnu. So he didn't care about anybody else. He only cared to satisfy Lord Vishnu. But if a person approaches a mother and says, I don't care for your children, but I like you, how will the mother feel? She won't agree to that. You don't like my children, then forget about it. I don't want to know you. So this is what happened, that when he tried to ignore the others and just go directly to Vishnu, Vishnu was not pleased. So here he's trying to do a puja, a sacrifice, a yajna to Vishnu, but due to his offenses, he's wasting his time because Vishnu is not pleased with his behavior. And Prabhupada explains that although every sacrifice is intended to pacify Lord Vishnu includes not only himself, but all his devotees as well. Because it's a family. Vishnu sees his devotees as part of his family, just as parents see the children as part of their family. And you can't eliminate the children from the family. That would be a great offense if someone ignored the children. So this is what happened. Daksha was confident that he was doing the right thing, but he didn't do the right thing. He was doing the wrong thing. So when you're confident that you're doing the right thing, but you're actually doing the wrong thing, what does that mean? It means you become so intoxicated that you don't know what's to be done. You don't know what's not to be done. You don't know what's right and you don't know what's not right. Just like a drunk person. He doesn't know the right thing to do. He wants to drive a car, but it's dangerous. He's endangering other people's lives. And if the police stop him and see that he's drunk, immediately they pull him over and take him to the jail and say, you better sleep here tonight. And they won't allow him to drive until he becomes sober. So we should become sober devotees. Sober means dhira, the Sanskrit word dhira. It means that we're calm and collected, and we know what's to be done. We know what's not to be done. We know the difference between what's right and wrong. We know what's an offense and what's not an offense. But when we become intoxicated with pride or with alcohol or with drugs or with anything, then we lose our sense of propriety. We lose our sense of proper perspective. And so we think one thing, and here Daksha also thought one thing, that let me just worship Vishnu because I want to please Vishnu, because the others are not at the same level, so who cares about them? So this is a terrible mentality. So Lord Vishnu was never satisfied with Daksha's behavior. So Prabhupada says that when one participates in the yajna, even though it's meant to satisfy Vishnu, it's also necessary to satisfy his followers. But Daksha had the wrong idea. He thought, I'll just satisfy Vishnu and it's not necessary to satisfy his followers. So Prabhupada says that is not the process. Vishnu wants his followers to be satisfied first, not even second, but first. That's why we do Guru Puja every day. By trying to please Srila Prabhupada, then Gaur Nitai are automatically pleased. So we don't ignore Prabhupada and just go to Gaur Nitai. We have to honor and respect Prabhupada, because without Srila Prabhupada, none of us would be here. Wouldn't even be a center. No one would know who Krishna is. So we have to recognize that fact and honor and respect him. And then Vishnu becomes pleased with us. And if we try to jump over Prabhupada and ignore him, we don't need him. We'll just forget about him. Then Vishnu is not very pleased with that. And then Prabhupada quotes what Krishna says, Mad Bhakta Puja Vyadika, that the worship of my devotee is very important. It's superior to my worship, because everyone will worship God. Everyone will go, yes, they understand it. You don't want to offend God. It's too powerful. So they're only thinking of their own benefit. Okay, well, I don't want to offend God, but I can offend his devotee because he's really nothing. But Krishna is saying that's wrong idea. That's not the process. We have to please the Vaishnavas first. And when the Vaishnavas are pleased, Krishna is pleased. So that's kind of the test, the sadhana pranali, that what I'm doing, whatever it is I'm doing, are the Vaishnavas pleased with what I'm doing? Because if they're pleased, then you know Krishna's pleased. That's how we know Krishna's pleased. Sometimes we may be thinking, I hope I'm pleasing Krishna. I don't know if I'm pleasing Krishna. Well, if the Vaishnavas are pleased, then you're pleasing Krishna. And if they're upset, then you're not pleasing Krishna. So we should understand this point. So in the Shiva Purana, it is stated that the best mode of worship is to offer obeisances to Vishnu, but better than that is to worship the devotees of Krishna. Thus, Daksha's determination to neglect Lord Shiva was a very great offense. So Prabhupada says he was determined to neglect Lord Shiva. He didn't do it by accident. He didn't just space out and forget, oh, Lord Shiva's here. No. Right from the very beginning, he was going to neglect Shiva because he didn't like him right from the very beginning. He had his reasons why he didn't like him. And one of the reasons was that he married his daughter. So now he's my son-in-law. I don't like this guy, and he's my son-in-law. That's terrible. How can my daughter be so foolish to marry such a person? So he had that type of mentality. So Prabhupada quotes the Shiva Puranas. So we have 18 Puranas that have come down to our world through the mercy of Vyasadeva. But in other realms and in the spiritual realms, there's more unlimited Puranas. But these Puranas that we have are they're given to us only because this is what we can only understand. And even some of them we don't even understand. We just accept it, but they're way beyond our understanding in Kali Yuga. But there are other much more profound, much more deeply explanatory Puranas, way beyond our ability to comprehend them. So they just don't, Vyasadeva just doesn't compile them for us. So he just compiled that which was absolutely necessary and that which we were able to understand. Because we're children in devotional service, we're just beginners. So for the beginners, for the children, if you want to teach them mathematics, you teach 1 + 1 is equal to 2 and 2 + 2 is equal to 4. That's all they can understand. You can't teach them algebra or geometry or trigonometry or calculus. They can't understand that. It's a waste of time. So similarly, Vyasadeva could understand that, it's Kali Yuga. So I'm only going to compile those scriptures that people will be able to understand in Kali Yuga. So in the Shiva Purana, there's the 3 groups of Puranas. 6 Puranas are for people who are in the mode of goodness. They can understand that. 6 other Puranas are in the mode of passion. People in the mode of passion can understand that. And then there's 6 other Puranas. The final 6 Puranas are for people who are in the mode of ignorance. And people in the mode of ignorance can only understand these 6. So the Shiva Purana is in the group of Puranas that's in the mode of ignorance. That doesn't mean that Shiva's in the mode of ignorance. It means his followers are in the mode of ignorance. So the Vedas are very, very intelligently laid out for all kinds of people, so that all kinds of people could understand. So for the more intelligent people, you have this group. For the middle class, you have this group. And for the lowest class, you have this group. So the lower class people, they can understand the Shiva Puranas, the 6 Puranas in that group. But even in that group, even in the Shiva Purana, Prabhupada mentions that it's stated that the best mode of worship is to offer oblations to Vishnu, not to Shiva. But even better than that is to worship the devotees. So there's one temple in South India, in Tamil Nadu, called Chidambaram. It's a very ancient temple. And in 1976, I was traveling all around India, and we came to Chidambaram temple. It was very, very impressive. It's huge boundary walls, about, maybe 6 meters high, all around the entire complex. And the only way to get in is through a huge gate called the Gopuram. And this Gopuram is massive and it's beautiful. It goes way up into the sky, maybe 25 meters high. And when you first come, you think that that's the temple. It's so impressive. You're thinking that's the temple. Then you find out it's only the gate to enter. It's a very ancient temple carved out of granite. And there's a big lake beside it where the pilgrims can bathe and you know, the water is necessary for cleansing the temple and for offering puja and everything. So that big lake is there. Then you go inside this temple. And inside the temple, this is the only temple that I've ever heard of or seen that has the deity of Shiva and the deity of Vishnu together. Vishnu faces east and Shiva faces south. And it's the form of Shiva that's known as Nataraj. Shiva Nataraj, he's dancing in a ring of fire. And they, you know, you can see this Murti. If you go to India, the shops sell it, you know, it's little small ones like this. But in this temple is the original big one. So he's dancing. And the pilgrims come in. And those who are, it's in the same big temple complex. And if you're a worshiper of Shiva, you go this way. And if you're a worshiper of Vishnu, you go this way. But you can, it's not two separate rooms. It's the same big room, gigantic hall. So we came in, and of course we went first to Vishnu because we're devotees of Vishnu, we offer obeisances. And the pujaris were very happy to see us, and they welcomed us. And then we couldn't help but notice the puja was going on for Lord Shiva also. So we just wandered over there and checked that out. And it was quite wonderful to see that the devotees of Shiva and the devotees of Vishnu, they worship together in the same temple. No problems. No one saying my God's better than your God or my worship's better than yours. They're completely accepting everyone's worship and everyone's path as acceptable, no problems. So that was very wonderful. So what we were doing in 1976, we were book distributors. We had a van. We were traveling around India distributing Prabhupada's books. So we had the Chaitanya Charitamrita open, and we would follow Lord Chaitanya when 500 years ago, when he toured India. So then we were just, okay, so he went to Kurmakshetra. First he was in Puri, so we went to Puri. Then he went to Kurmakshetra, we went there. Then he went to Simachalam, we went there. Everywhere he went, we went. And then we distribute books in that area and go to the temples that Lord Chaitanya went to. It was a very good feeling, you know, going to the same temples he went to and following in his footsteps, because that's what we're meant to do, to follow in the footsteps. And sometimes we came across a place, it said, and then Lord Chaitanya went to such and such a place, and we couldn't find it anywhere. We'd ask all the local people, and then finally we'd find someone who said, oh, that's the old name. It's changed. The new name is so-and-so. So then, oh, okay, so then we'd go there. Like, for example, Lord Chaitanya went to the temple of Svetavaraha, and it was in the name of the village was something, but they changed that name. So we had a lot of difficulty finding that Svetavaraha Murti in that temple. But finally we found it. And so it was very ecstatic, traveling and preaching and going to all the temples and being like a detective, following in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya and figuring out where he went, which temple had changed their name, and how to find that out. And another thing that we read in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that when Lord Chaitanya was on his tour, it took him 6 years to go all the way around India. Whenever he came to a Vishnu temple, the first thing he would do, because every Vishnu temple is protected by Lord Shiva. So he would first offer his obeisances to Lord Shiva before he entered the temple. And I guess he was thanking Lord Shiva for protecting the temple and offering respects to Lord Shiva, because Lord Shiva, Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu, he's considered of all the Vaishnavas, he's the topmost Vaishnava, Shambhu, that's the name for Shiva. So Lord Chaitanya would do that. Then he would enter the temple. So we were following that. Now, there's one very interesting passage in one temple where Lord Chaitanya went into. He went to worship the deity, and then he saw the Brahmins all in one corner, and they were joking and laughing. And he was thinking, this really isn't the proper mentality. So, because you have to be a little more serious. So he approached them and said, what is the cause of your laughter? And then they pointed to another Brahmana in the other corner. Said, oh, it's him. Lord Chaitanya looked, well, what about him? Oh, he's phony, he's fake. What do you mean? He's illiterate. He can't read, but he's pretending that he's reading Bhagavad Gita. We just don't take him seriously. So Lord Chaitanya went over to that Brahmin, and he had the Gita upside down, so he turned it right side up. Said, my dear sir, I see that you're trying to read the Gita. And he said, yes, but I'm illiterate. Therefore, I can't really read it. So if you're illiterate and you can't read, then why are you doing it? Because they're making fun of you. So he said, well, my Guru Maharaj, when he initiated me, he didn't know that I was illiterate, that I came from a very poor family. And I had to go out to collect money to support the family. I wasn't able to get an education, so I'm actually illiterate. But my Guru Maharaj didn't know I was illiterate, and he told me every day to read the Bhagavad Gita. So I'm trying to follow the orders of my Guru Maharaj, even though I'm illiterate, can't read. So Lord Chaitanya was touched by that. He thought, wow, he's very sincere. He really liked it. But then he noticed that there was tears coming in the Brahmin's eyes. So he said, my dear sir, if you can't understand what's in the Gita, but I see tears are coming from your eyes, how is it that you're feeling so emotional about this? So the Brahmin said, you see that picture? And he pointed to that picture. Look at Krishna. Krishna becomes the servant of his devotee Arjuna. He's driving the chariot. Now, in the Vedic times, a chariot driver was considered a very low occupation. It's what we call today in India, we call them a rickshawala. So rickshawala is a low occupation. And they don't have very good character. So the Brahmana said, when I see that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, agrees to become the rickshawala for Arjuna, for his devotee, then I'm so overcome by emotion that tears come to my eyes. So much love and devotion and humility the Lord has. So then Lord Chaitanya said to that person, you are the real knower of the Gita. He was the real knower of the Gita, even though he was illiterate, he couldn't read one word. But he was the real knower of the Gita because he had some feeling, some affection, and some understanding about the Lord. And because Lord Chaitanya had been preaching all over India, he had been preaching everywhere he went. Kiba vipra, kiba mnyasi, shudra kene noi, Jai Krishna tatva veta, say Guru hoy. Doesn't matter if you're a Brahmana. Doesn't matter if you're a Shudra. Doesn't matter if you're a sannyasi or a grihasta. Whoever understands the truth about Krishna, he is the genuine Guru. So Lord Chaitanya could understand that this illiterate Brahmana, he could understand the truth of Krishna. And so he was the real guru, not these other so-called learned brahmanas who are ridiculing him. They didn't have any respect. In front of the Lord in the temple, they were neglecting him. In other words, they were in the Daksha Sampradaya. They were following exactly the mood of Daksha. Yeah, we worship the Lord, but his devotees, the other ones, forget about it. They find some fault. Oh, he's illiterate. We want, he's bogus. So in this way, Daksha, he also was thinking along these lines of Lord Shiva. Oh, he's not clean. Oh, he hangs out in the wrong kinds of places with the wrong kind of people. Yeah, I don't like him. And he married my daughter. Oh my God, this has set shame on my family. This is the mood. The whole family has been shamed because my daughter married this Shiva. So that was the mood of Daksha. So he was determined to neglect Lord Shiva right from the very beginning of the yajna. He never had any intention of offering respects to him. So right from the beginning, he had a horrible mentality. Now, it's very interesting to note that Daksha, although he wasn't a devotee, he didn't have bhakti, because bhakti means that you das, honor das, you honor and respect everyone. So he wasn't a devotee, he didn't have any bhakti, but he was performing all these yajnas. The Vajapaya yajna, the Brihaspati Sava yajna, not everyone can do these yajnas. So he had Shakti, but he didn't have Bhakti. And so in the end, because he didn't have Bhakti, he became humiliated. And as you'll read later on, his head was cut off and he ended up with the head of a donkey, a mudha. He was ridiculed by everyone. He became a mudha. But he had Shakti, but that Shakti was useless because he didn't have Bhakti. If you don't have Bhakti, you offend the Lord by offending his devotees, and then you're finished. So that's the important thing. We become puffed up with our Shakti. We get a little bit of power, or we get a little bit of knowledge, or a little bit of something, and we're thinking, I'm so much better than everybody else. But how does the Lord see it? So this is my analogy. For example, supposing we're walking in the forest and you come across a big anthill and you see all these ants busily working, and then you're looking closely and you notice one ant is carrying this, little tiny stick, but it's bigger than him. So he's doing some heavy work, whereas the other ones are just scurrying around, not really doing so much seva. So this one ant is thinking, I'm doing the best service. No one else doing this service that I'm doing. He's probably thinking like that. Everyone else is scurrying around, but this ant's doing some real service. He's bringing this important piece of whatever he thinks it is to the anthill for support. But as a human being looking at it, amongst the ant community, he may think he's better. But amongst us, they're all just ants. We don't think one ant's better than the other. They're all just ants. Similarly, from the perspective of Vishnu, God, we're all just human beings, conditioned souls. This conditioned soul thinking he's better than that conditioned soul. It's just like one ant thinking he's better than another ant. So in the eyes of God, he sees everyone with equal vision, just like we see every ant with equal vision. We don't think, oh, this ant is superior. So once we understand that, then we can behave in a proper way. So understanding our position in relationship to God and in relationship to Vaishnavas and in relationship to every other living entity, this is called Sambandha Gyan, Sambandha Tattva, the truth of understanding our relationship with every living entity. And this is a very deep subject matter. We have to really study and understand what is our relationship with everyone. And once we understand that, then the next subject matter that's very deep, that's very important for us to understand is called Abhideya Tattva. Now that I fully understand all these different relationships, how do I behave in every single case, in every situation, dealing with millions of different living entities? How do I behave with the ants? How do I behave with the cats, the dogs, the trees, the humans, the devotees, the demons? We have to know. So Prabhupada gave an example one time. He was saying that because we're taking the path of Lord Chaitanya, we have to really become the genuine Vaishnava. He said we can't find fault with people in India who may be bogus if we ourselves are not genuine, if we ourselves are bogus. So we really have to become the genuine Vaishnavas. So then one devotee raised his hand and said, Srila Prabhupada, how do we know who is the genuine Vaishnava? You think that's a good question? Would you like to know the answer? Prabhupada paused for a moment and then he said, the genuine Vaishnava is a perfect gentleman in all situations. So we're always polite, we're always kind, we're always sweet in our behavior, we're always respectful. A perfect gentleman or a perfect lady, that's the genuine Vaishnava. So Daksha wasn't. He was pretending he was a Vaishnava. He's doing his puja to Vishnu, but he has no bhakti. He doesn't know how to behave. He doesn't understand Sambandha Gyan, and therefore he didn't have the Abhideya Tattva properly. So he just offended Vishnu, offended everybody else. It was a complete fiasco. There's a word in English, snafu. It means situation normal, all fouled up, which means that the situation in that community is always bad, it's always foul, and for them that's normal. So usually that's applied to the military in America. If the military does something wrong and they make a huge mistake, they say, oh, it was a snafu. Situation normal, always fouled up. Always wrong, always blowing it. So that was Daksha. He's ahead of that sampradaya. For him to do everything always wrong, that's normal for him. So we have to be careful that we're on the right path. And Prabhupada gave the example that spiritual life is like a razor's edge. And he said, because when you shave, if you make the slightest mistake, you cut yourself and blood comes. You have to be exactly so you don't cut yourself. So he said spiritual life is like a razor's edge, that if you're not exactly 100% right on in your behavior, you draw blood. That means, you offend someone. Someone becomes your enemy. So we have to become the genuine Vaishnava, perfect gentleman. So it's interesting here that Daksha, he began a sacrifice named Vajrapeya, and then he did another great sacrifice, the Brihaspati Sava. So the prerequisite for the Brihaspati Sava is the Vajrapeya. So he did this one. Now he's going up to the next highest. So he knows how to do yagyas. He has Shakti. He can do these things, but completely devoid of bhakti. So we don't want to be like that. There's another example in Shastra. Has anybody ever heard of Shringi? Shringi was the son of Samika Rishi. And he was a young teenage boy. He had Shakti, but no Bhakti. So he erroneously thought that Maharaj Parikshit had offended his father. So he cursed Maharaj Parikshit to die in 7 days. Obviously, he had Shakti. No doubt about it, because 7 days later, Maharaj Parikshit left his body. He had the Shakti, but no Bhakti. And his father chastised him. How you could do that to the king? You know, the king is a beyond reproach. You may have thought he did something wrong, but I didn't. You know, I accepted that, you know, that I deserved chastisement by him. But Shringi thought, oh, you've insulted my father. I'm going to get you. And so he cursed him. So Shringi is also in the Daksha Sampradaya. So we have to be careful. We don't want to be in the Daksha Sampradaya, where we're offending other people because we don't honor and respect them. And that's not pleasing to Krishna. So we honor and respect everybody. What's the harm to honor and respect everybody? Just Hari Bol, nice to see you. You know, so doesn't mean you have to marry them. I mean, you know, you just be friendly. That's all. So that's the purport of this verse. Hare Krishna. Are there any comments or questions? Yes.
Because I understand that I'm not a genuine Vaishnava, and I have the risk to make offenses. It's better to stay away from the Vaishnavas, straight Vaishnavas, until I become gentleman.
Well, the thing is that when we first come and join the yoga process and take up bhajana kriya, the practices and process of devotional service, we all bring our faults with us. No one comes already pure. But by studying and learning and seeing the behavior of others, we are shown, the direction is pointed to us, this is the right path, this is the right way to behave. But due to bad habits from the past, I may offend somebody. So in the Shastra, there's a remedy for that. If you offend someone, then you should apologize. Please, you know, please forgive me. I offended you. I didn't mean to. I want to offer my obeisances. Let's move forward. And then when Lord Vishnu sees that, then you're absolved of any offense. So this is in the 9th canto. Maharaj Ambarish, he was following very strict vow of Ekadasi. And at that time, Durvasa Muni came to visit, but Ambarish Maharaj didn't stop what he was doing to get up and greet him, because he was just finishing some very important seva that he was doing for Ekadasi. And so Durvasa Muni felt that he's insulted me. I'm a guest, and he didn't stop and whatever he was doing and acknowledge my presence. He just ignored me as if I wasn't there. So he became greatly offended. And when Sudarshan Chakra saw that this Durvasa Muni had offended Ambarish Maharaj, he came immediately and ready to cut off his head. So Durvasa Muni had mystic power, so he could escape. But everywhere he went, Sudarshan Chakra would follow him. He couldn't go anywhere and lose Sudarshan Chakra. He was hot on his heels, right on his tail. So finally, Durvasa Muni said, the only hope I have is to go to Vishnu. So he went to Vishnu. Sveta Dvip, the ocean of milk, where Vishnu resides. This Kirodakshai Vishnu. He says, please save me. The Sudarshan Chakra. He's like mad. And Vishnu said, oh, I'm sorry. My hands are tied. What? What do you mean? You're Vishnu. You're the all-powerful. No, I can't do anything for you. Well, why not? Well, you offended a Vaishnava. If you offend a Vaishnava, I can't help you. Well, what can I do? The only thing you can do is go back and offer your apology, and then I can help you. So it's very interesting. That's the 9th canto. You should read this because everyone knows that the Lord's mercy is there for everybody. Even if you're a murderer in the jail or a child molester and everybody hates you, still you can get the Lord's mercy. You can pray to God for forgiveness and you can get his mercy. But if you offend a Vaishnava, you're cut from the mercy of the Lord. It's worse than being a murderer. It's worse than being a child abuser because you're cut from the mercy of the Lord. Therefore, we have to be very careful about this. The first and foremost offense is to blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives to propagating the holy name of the Lord. Because we're chanting Hare Krishna and we're sharing this wherever we go, then these devotees who are propagating the holy name of the Lord are very dear to the Lord. And if I offend them, then I cut myself from the mercy of the Lord. So it's a very grave, serious offense. But we don't realize how grave and how serious it is until we read the 9th canto and we hear what Vishnu has to say and we see what happened there between Ambarish Maharaj and Durvasa Muni. Now, Ambarish Maharaj was such a great devotee that he didn't take it as an offense. No, you haven't offended me. No, it was my fault. So even when Durvasa Muni went back and I apologize for the offense, no, you didn't create an offense. It was I created an offense to you. The devotees are so humble, they never accept that you offended me. The pure devotees. Ambarish Maharaj is a pure devotee. But Vishnu took it as an offense. So the important thing to understand is not whether I offend somebody and they don't take it as an offense, therefore I'm free from that offense. No, we have to know what Vishnu thought about that. If Vishnu thinks it's an offense, then it's an offense, even if the devotee I offended doesn't think so. So this is why Prabhupada was saying to us, don't be Krishna unconscious. First become conscious that we're dealing with Krishna and dealing with Krishna's devotees. We have to be very, very careful. It's like a razor's edge. One slip, you cut yourself, you draw blood, and the Lord is, thinks that you're, an offender because you spoke or did something to another Vaishnava that hurt that the Lord didn't approve of for some reason. So we have to be very careful about this. So we just try our best to be respectful to everybody. Doesn't mean that they're our best friend. All it means is that I'm respectful. That's all it means. Even to the demons, we're respectful. We don't agree with them. We don't mix with them. We have nothing to do with them. But if we see them on the street, we say, good morning. Or we say hello and goodbye. That's it. 2 words, hello and goodbye. We don't mix with them, but we're polite. Because you always have to be a Vaishnava. Because inside the heart of every living entity is who? Paramatma. And Paramatma's thinking, he's seeing, can you see me in the heart of this living entity? Can you see me here? Can you see me there? When you're fully Krishna conscious, you can see Paramatma in everyone's heart. But maybe you don't see Paramatma in the heart of a gypsy, let's say. Or in the heart of a Doberman dog, who's barking at you and he's about to tear you to shreds. You don't see Paramatma in his heart. So everything's a test in spiritual life. Paramatma is saying to us, can you see me in this body? Can you see me in that body? Prabhupada could see Paramatma in everybody. Even in the Christian tradition, there's St. Francis of Assisi. When Prabhupada was being interviewed by Shyam Sundar, he wanted to get Prabhupada's perspective on all the different philosophies. So he would say, well, here's this philosopher. This is his philosophy. And then Prabhupada and him would discuss it. So then he said, and this is St. Francis of Assisi, very popular, great Christian saint. Prabhupada said, what's his philosophy? And Shyam Sundar said, he saw everybody as his brother and sister. The sun was his brother. The moon was his sister. He saw every living entity as brother and sister. And Prabhupada said, that's Vaishnava. So St. Francis of Assisi passed Prabhupada's test. He was a Vaishnava. Every other philosopher, Prabhupada would show where it was wrong. Dialectic, what's it called? Spiritualism. It's a book of philosophy. You have it in English? Yeah, very interesting. So, yeah, we have to be careful. We just have to. I spoke on this yesterday because you asked a similar question. That if we can't offer our apologies to someone for some reason, maybe they left their body or they're in a different country, we have to figure out how to offer our obeisances, how to ask for forgiveness. We can do it through the Lord. My dear Lord, I want to beg forgiveness for the offense I committed to someone 30 years ago, unknowingly, and now it's bothering me. I feel guilty about it. So, if Vishnu, Krishna understands that you're had a change of heart, then you're free of that offense. So this is called being Krishna conscious. Is that helpful? Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. So what time is the Sunday program?
4, we start with the singing.
Yeah. And then?
And we sing, and after that, so at 6 we'll serve prasad. So from 4 to 6 we have 2 hours for.
Okay. So we could chant for.
Yes, chant, talking, and
yeah.
the time permits, we may have Gora Ratika.
Oh, what time is it, Gaurarti?
It's
5:45.
20 to 6.
Okay.
30
right.
minutes to 6. So it depends.
Okay, and we sing the Gaurarti song?
Yes.
Yeah.
Gaurarati and
yeah.
Narasimha Pranam.
Okay, good. So they get to see our service, our whole Arti service. Yeah.
And, we can sing along.
Good, very good. That's standard in most temples.
Standard,
yeah.
Sunday.
Very good. Very.
So we start at 4 in general, 30 minutes, 40 minutes singing,
mm-hmm.
and Bhagavad Gita, some discussions, and
right.
We may have an hour or 50 minutes Bhagavad Gita.
Okay, very good. So hopefully many people come. How many people usually come to the Sunday program?
25, 30 in the best cases.
Okay, good. Because that's double what we have now.
Well, they are a bit overwhelmed now, but they will recover their
Good. So we look forward to a wonderful program starting at 4:00. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.